Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hello, my friends. Nearby, they are quite active on the construction site, and of course, they have a lot to talk during their work. So we may have a little bit chatter in the background. Hope it doesn't disturb. Let me talk a moment about a topic that comes again and again. It's an age-old question people are debating about. It's the question of free will. Do we have free will? Don't we have free will? I just somehow came in contact recently with people who are convinced there is no such thing like free will. Somehow, even those people deep down know that something is not quite right with that absolute statement, there is no free will. Now, the opposite statement, there is total free will, that you can totally decide from moment to moment what to do, what not to do, is also not quite right. But certainly, it's not that we are just a mechanism that is being driven by forces that is totally beyond our control. There are many influences that this present moment can happen. There are influences from all over that sort of come together and produce this present moment. But one aspect of those many influences is the consciousness of the one who is experiencing it. And actually, I do agree to the statement that many people say it's all God's will. Actually, nobody can really explain what that means, God's will, but I do agree to the statement. It's all God's will. But I have no doubt, part, an aspect of the divine will that is producing this manifestation is also that consciousness manifest has its creativity. And because of this, the whole story makes sense. Think of it that as if once upon a time, before creation, something or somebody decided this creation comes into being, and then decided all the details that are going to happen as long as this creation exists. Doesn't make sense. But that's what then people say sometimes. There's no sense in it. There's no sense in being born here. There's no sense in this whole manifestation. It's all accidental and it's all preordained. One teacher was very strong about this and called it the absolute standpoint. There is absolutely nothing absolute about that standpoint. But one can experience that. It's a state. One can experience suddenly that a cosmic force is taking over and have the feeling I'm just an instrument in that. It's a great relief when that happens, when one experiences that, because along with it, a lot of accumulated guilt may just disappear. Okay, it's all the play of the divine. In my story, I came from the Advaitic point of view. And I very much picked up that concept, I'm not the doer. Trying to remember. Having the conviction, I'm not the doer, but then from moment to moment, that feeling was still there all the time. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then suddenly this happened. And the divine force took over. And it was not more an opinion, it was not more a statement, but really, I'm not the doer. Everything is happening in the flow of the divine. What a liberation, what a relief. At the same time, from the beginning, it was made clear to me, this is just a state. Enjoy it for some time, and then it's time to go beyond it. I am the doer is a concept. I'm not the doer is also a concept. It may be helpful for some time to hold on to the second concept. I'm not the doer, to neutralize that I'm the doer obsession. I do this, I do that, I. Consciousness manifest has its own creativity. That's part of the divine will. As a manifestation, that free will has its limit. As a manifestation, actually, the person is just a reflection of your being. Your being is free, is divine. You are free, you are divine. The person manifest is not what you are. It's just a channel through which we connect on this level, in this world. And in itself doesn't really have any free will, but you are not that person. You direct that person. As long as we are identifying with that person totally, then we may think, I as a person am free to do this, to do that from moment to moment, and we are not aware how much we are being pushed along by forces of which we don't even know they exist. But once you start to step out of that current, once you start to turn the attention back to yourself, you become aware, hey, this person is just the role that I'm playing. Eventually, you may become aware that you are really that divine essence. And there is that bubbling life, that bubbling beauty that wants to express itself and is free to do so. And if we act from that perspective, from that level, then there is freedom. Automatically, somebody who is in harmony will, in manifestation, even if that awareness of that freedom is there, will adjust to the cosmic will, to the cosmic scheme that is going on. If they don't want, they may just get out of this manifestation. The more we are asleep, the more we are simply pushed by the forces of destiny, by all kinds of influences that are there. We don't know they exist, the influences, and we think I'm making decisions, but actually we are influenced all the time. The more you turn your attention back, the more you can be aware of those subtle influences and not be a victim of it. And then bring your own creativity to it. That is not predictable, and that has its own force that may be stronger than the other influences. Still, in manifestations, the different even influences are there, and then our creative input is one of them. Many times it may tip the scale of a situation, but many times it may not. But whether we bring our creativity into it or not, there we are free. How much we are successful with it from moment to moment, that may not lay in our hands. You are free in your essence, free as a being. In manifestations, that there are certain limitations. But the rule of thumb is, the more somebody is aware of that essence, the more one gets rooted in that, the longer the line becomes where there is really free will from moment to moment. Then people quote Ramana Maharshi, who has said sometimes everything that is supposed to happen will happen, everything that is not supposed to happen will not happen. But if you read Ramana, then you will see that he said different things to different people. He was a teacher who knew what was best for those who listen. And sometimes he talked about free will, that yes, we have a free will. He may not have said that you have the freedom to do whatever you like, but you have the freedom, whether or not you make the attempt to bring the attention back and be aware and identify with the self, or whether you are simply being swept away by the circumstances, being a victim of it. And sometimes he said to people, no, there is no free will. It's all preordained. That's what that person had to hear at that time. And when he said the opposite, that's what the person or the people, the crowd who was listening to him had to hear at that time. There is no final answer. Anyone who says it's exactly like this, or it's exactly like that, you have the right to doubt. But deep down, everybody feels there must be more than just a mechanical clockwork that is just unwinding itself. That there is somewhere a sense in the whole story that we are going through this, that we can learn in course of the process to be more and more centered in that essential beingness that is free and express that freedom joyously in this manifestation. Practically, where does it lead us? Because it's a good attitude to learn to surrender, not always to resist. But surrender doesn't mean that we have to give up our capacity to be creative. Surrender simply means exactly that, to stop resisting that the fact in the present moment as a manifestation is as it is. Accept it, and then you can still bring your creativity into it. We are asked to do so. There is no contradiction between the capacity to surrender and to exercise one's own capacity to be creative. Surrender means to stop resisting. All right, accept it's like this, it's like that, and then we can make the best out of the situation. That doesn't in any way contradict surrender. Surrender means to be in the flow, but in the flow, we can dive into our resources. We can become aware of that beauty and creativity that is there and express it ever better and better and more beautiful. Okay. It's an old subject. It's being discussed again and again. Act as if you had free will, even if it's limited. But learn to accept that the result of the action, how successful it is, doesn't lay in our hands because there are too many other influences also playing along. If we can do that, then we can go about the whole life story playfully, cheerfully. Okay, I'm leaving the subject. And then I'll answer shortly to a question that Anita asked. She said somebody told her that Ramana Maharshi had this shaking because he had this shaking disease or whatever it is. She said shaking the head, but when he was standing and standing still, then the whole body started to shake. And somebody told her, when he had his awakening, his Kundalini rose, and because of that, the shaking started. That, of course, is a very specific interpretation. Why should Ramana Maharshi have this shaking? Some people said he had Parkinson. Well, we can call it whatever we want. He himself, he actually sometimes was asked, why is it, I remember having read the question, but Bhagavan, you in the middle of your lifespan, you're in the middle age and already you have the shaking. How is it possible? How come? And he said, jokingly, if you put a too big elephant in a too small shed, then that shed will have all kinds of defects after a short time. Ramana Maharshi, he was a special case. He simply, from one day to another, shifted into a new perspective and he didn't lose it. This happens very rarely. Sometimes people have an experience like this, but then it fades away again and there is simply the memory that keeps on inspiring people, but he just had that new base. It was not the end of the story, but from there a totally new story unfolded. And then he came here and he was so absorbed. He didn't need to care about his body. Other people, if their body is not well, then they have very much difficulties to connect with the essence. But he was so absorbed, he simply neglected his body completely. Still, as that intensity, as the energy increased continuously with what he was doing, his continuous sitting here, the body had to adjust, but it was like the body was always a bit lacking behind because he didn't care about it. He didn't make any attempt to help it. And so his shaking disease, his quite early being gray and not looking so young is a manifestation of that the body had been in a stress in a way all the time because he didn't try to keep it up to level to his ever increasing intensity. It didn't disturb him. But then the other people, they say, oh, I'm not the body, I'm not the body, I'm not the body. They don't want to take care of their body. But then when they are sick, then they forget all about I'm not the body and run from one healer to another, from one doctor to another, and totally are absorbed because they cannot more connect with the silent part of themselves. So Ramana Maharshi was one very special manifestation. For most people, I would recommend that to take again Ramana's picture, as the elephant is growing, also to increase the size of the shed where the elephant is living. We can take care of the body and not get obsessed with it, but slowly make the body stronger, the nervous system stronger, and not get lost on that level still with the spirit of making it easier to connect, to be in touch with the essence. For Ramana Maharshi, it didn't make a difference. His connection was so intensely there, it simply didn't matter whether the body felt good or not. He was simply absorbed. But for most of the other people, it's much more recommendable to keep, if possible, the body in reasonable good shape. That makes it easier to connect. We will be less disturbed by the body. And the body can become a wonderful, beautiful expression of the self, a temple. Okay, I'm leaving that subject also, and I'm addressing you, my friends. Is there anybody who would like to come in? You're welcome.
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Dayal.
I want to ask you about how much important the direction what we are meditating, what we are facing to geographical direction. For example, I was believed for many years that the best way to meditate towards east. But then after some times I was reading the Chinese said it's depend on the time of birth of person. It's different for different people. So then other things on Vipassana center, it's advisable that teacher facing the east also. But then the students meditating towards the teacher, then they are facing the west. So I was worried. So 10 days I should face in the wrong direction or something like this. Or for example, in Tiruvannamalai, many people meditating towards Arunachala. Of course, if it is near, it influence very strong. But if it's far away, how much influence of Arunachala, for example, may happen? Or another things, I live in near Vipassana center, about 1 kilometer, and there's most of time meditating hundreds of people with the teacher, of course, strong energy. Maybe should I facing Vipassana center? But Vipassana center from my home towards south direction, and I read somewhere never meditate to the south direction. So what do you think about all these ideas?
Yeah, right. Well, I have heard like you from the beginning, it's good to face east or north or maybe west, but try to avoid south. So that's after that what I did, simply because I've heard it. Except when I was in the same room with a teacher, then I didn't care the direction. And I would recommend you not to take it too serious. So meditate how you feel good. But if you have in mind that meditating towards the south is not good, and then you meditate facing the Vipassana center, and then you have a conflict in your mind because of that, then you better don't meditate like this. Meditate how you feel, it's natural. And this is also simply a calculation in the mind. There is a teacher with maybe 100 students sitting there, and there is much energy, so I should face it. You can also connect with that space when you face in another direction. It doesn't mean that your nose has to look in that direction. So don't take it so serious. If you can easily arrange it to face the direction which you prefer, then do so. And if for some reason you have to sit facing another direction, then never mind. It's not important. What is more important, that the direction is towards your own self, towards your essence, and not so much out into the thoughts and feelings and sense perceptions.
Okay, thank you. And one more question. Recently, I see advice from yoga teacher about Kechari Mudra. It's about the tongue. The yogi should bring the tongue to the upper side of the mouth. Yeah, something. Bend the tongue up as much as possible. And I hear about that in Chinese Qigong. Usually they bring the tongue just a little bit higher than upper teeth, just a little bit. Yes, but this Kichari Mudra means put the tongue as to the top as much as possible. And I try that. Maybe there's something in it, but my mouth become full of liquid saliva.
Yeah.
What is English name? Yeah. So, what do you think about this? This Kichari Mudra?
Yes, in the yogic scriptures, it's being praised, and all kinds of miraculous things should happen if you do Kechari Mudra. If you bend your tongue back. So the Hatha yoga is training his tongue to bend more and more back until actually he can go up in the nose, inside. It's completely exaggerated. It has an effect that you can easier concentrate energetically. It has an effect. But you can also, if you want to work with it, you can also very gently just bend the tongue a bit back and touch the palatal with your tongue without straining about it. If you feel it's helpful, fine. If you don't feel it's helpful, never mind about it. But it has an energetic effect. There was a period in my sadhana time where I had the tongue all the time up. But then after that, I stopped being very particular about it. And at that time, I felt it helped me in concentration. It helped energetically. But it's all these little helps. We can pick, the yoga is full of these little tricks you can use. The yoga's teaching, the yoga scriptures. And if you want them, to use all these things, then people get a bit waylaid by giving more importance to the little tricks. And then you are busy doing all these things that should be helpful, forgetting what actually matters most, the essence, that you should bring the attention back to the essence. So if there are things you hear, if you hear about those tricks and you feel they are appealing, you can include them into your practice, but don't get obsessed with it. It's not that whether or not you are doing Kechari Mudra or not, whether are you using other yogic tricks or not, that really makes the difference whether you are spiritually unfolding. What makes the difference is the sincerity with which you go about it. But if it feels appealing and you feel it's helpful, then try a bit with bending the tongue back, but I would recommend you don't strain yourself too much. Just gently. Or you can play a bit if you want in between, maybe helpful for a moment when the mind is racing to press a bit farther back, just to help to bring the attention in the present, but then I would relax and gently go about it.
Okay, understand. Thank you, Werner. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Mario, Mario. The crow wants to talk. Is there anybody who would like to talk?
I would like
hello?
to ask a question.
Hello.
Hi.
Nava.
Yes.
Nava.
And I'd like to ask how important you think a place is. 10 days ago, I was in Tiru. I was with the group. We were sitting with you.
Yeah.
And there was something about Tiru. Every place I went in Tiru, there was something that very much affected me.
Mm-hmm.
Things felt more immediate, more real, more, I don't know, just something about Tiru.
Yeah.
Now I'm back home.
In Israel.
I'm back in Israel. Everything feels foreign, feels strange. It feels like I don't belong here.
Mm.
And my reality is that I will not come back to live in Tiru as much as I would like to.
Yeah.
But what I want to ask is, how important do you think the place is? What I feel like I'm left with is I have no choice but to look for Tiru in me. Right now, not at all successfully. I just want to be in Tiru. So what do you think about that?
Yes. The essence, reality is everywhere the same. East, west, north, south. And we can contact that essence wherever we are. Now, in manifestation, there are energetic differences. Sure, there are very intense places like Arunachala that help us if we make the effort, if we take the trouble to look in the right direction, there is a support there. There are very intense places energetically that do the opposite, that they are very intense, but they pull your attention away. Now, these are influences. If you can adjust your life, that you live in a place that is helpful, fine. But if you cannot, like you say, your reality is that you are where you are, and it seems that you cannot stay in Tiruvannamalai, for example, then don't make that into a reason that you cannot connect, because you can, wherever you are. Just we may have to make a little bit more of a sincere decision to look in the right direction in a place where the energy rather wants to pull our attention away from the essence. But on the other hand, if you are capable in such a place to still connect, then you get that much stronger, that much more benefit out of it. So you can look at it as a challenge. And that what you felt in Tiruvannamalai, I can tell you, when you stay longer, that feeling also slowly will go away, because still the personal stuff will come up and overshadow, and it becomes commonplace, day-to-day commonplace. One doesn't feel it so overwhelming. Like when people come here and they can feel it, it's a bit like a honeymoon time. One feels so overwhelmed by it, but then when they stay longer, then they stop being so aware of it. It's still there, but you can remember your time here, what you felt. And that may help you wherever you are to connect easier there. In Israel, the essence is the same. You are never apart from that, and you can touch that. And you can go deeper and deeper and deeper into that, no matter where you are. It's just, it's more like your decision to do so has to be that much the stronger if you are in a place that is not very supportive. So don't feel sad about it, but think, okay, that was a moment of grace being there in Tiruvannamalai. It helped me to open up better, but now you can use that experience by remembering that to make it easier to connect there. It helps if you have every day some time where you're doing nothing else, where you are not busy, where you can put your undivided attention to connect, and then just try to remember and bring it as good as you can in your active life, with family, with friends, in the job, in the society, in the surroundings. You are still that divine being, and you can bring your attention back to that divine essence no matter what. So don't get discouraged if it's a bit more difficult where you are now than what you felt when you are here, when you were here. It's still possible.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I wish you well. Would you like to ask something else, or shall we leave it at that?
I think that's fine for now. Thank
Right.
you.
Hario. Hario. Is there anybody else who would like to say something? You're welcome to come in.
Hi,
Hello,
Werner.
Werner.
Oh,
Okay. Now nobody is there. 2 people came.
Hello,
hi,
Werner.
Werner.
All right, let Nelly be here, and then I haven't seen who was the other person. Can come after that. Hello, Nelly.
Hello, Werner. Thank you. I have a question to you about meditation, about the technique of meditation. Recently, I found out one practice, and some things was interesting for me, and I decided to try to use some elements of it.
Yes.
So when I breathe, I sorry, I try to like imagine maybe like when I breathe in, I go from my down from the back from the low part of my spine to the up uh, up side of my spine, and I breathe in and I go along my spine.
Yes.
And when I breathe out, I go from upside to the lower part
Yes.
of the spine. And I felt something that it helps me to feel myself more aware. Like I tried it only maybe 2 or 3 times, but it seemed to me that it helps me to be more aware and not fly so much in my thoughts and dreams. It seems to me that it helps me. And from another side, I feel some like it seems like I feel some energy in my body, more energy, something like this. And I wanted to ask you about maybe it is not so natural that I manipulate with my breath to go it from in this way, and I don't want to do something maybe extra, maybe don't harm. Yes.
Yeah, you don't want to do harm, huh? to yourself, right? But
Yeah.
since it has appealed to you somehow, you said you read about or you learned a technique, and then some aspects somehow appealed to you, and you integrated that in your meditation, and you can very well do so. There's no harm in it. Don't force yourself. If after some time you get tired, when you sit to do so, you can also just do it for some time and then let it go. But if it feels good, then by all means continue. It's a good exercise. I know that exercise well. It won't do any harm, but don't strain yourself, push yourself to go on and on and on. If you feel tired of it, then you can also let it go again for the time being.
Yes, I did like this. So I did it for some time, and then I felt that maybe it is enough, and
yes,
stopped. And when I felt that my thoughts again attacks me, I began to do it again.
You can very well do
yes.
so. That's fine.
Okay, Werner. I just investigate something, and I tried something like Vipassana sometimes to scan my body.
Yeah.
And I felt that it helps me too to take attention from my thoughts when I scan body, but I don't know why, but I don't feel so much like it so much to go on this practice. Sometimes I use it when I see that so many thoughts.
Yeah.
Yes, and another thing that I tried in that practice is go along the spine, but go go spiral, so around every vertebra, or not every vertebra. In this practice, I should go spiral from low part to the up around every vertebra. But it is rather difficult to find every vertebra. I tried to do it, just I go spiral around my spine, up, and then go down. I just only began to try it and saw something. It maybe it is sometimes helpful to be aware, more aware of sensations, and maybe less in my mind. But I don't know how, if I can do it, how should I do it right? Maybe I should go till the end of the spine or till the end of my head and then go down. And should I, can I do this practice, or maybe it's not so right? So I
Actually, I would recommend you don't bother about the whole spiral thing, at least for the time being, but you just gently feel the attention rising up with the breath and sinking down with the breath, and rising up with the breath and sinking down, without going into the whole thing that you should spiral around the vertebrae.
Okay.
If after some time you feel it's not more helping enough to keep your attention away from thinking, maybe you can add this kind of acrobatics, but I can tell you it doesn't make really energetically a difference. It's not necessary. You can very well also relaxedly just flow up and down and up and down without having the idea of spiraling.
Okay, I see. Thank you, Werner.
Okay, try and see. Wish you well.
Okay. Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om. So somebody try to come in along with Nelly.
Yeah. Hi, Werner. It's Ravi here from Australia.
Ah, hello, Ravi. Now
Hi.
I see you.
So I wanted to ask about, I've been reading some of Amma's books, and they talk a lot about concentration, how that's an important part of meditation, of experiencing the self. And I was wondering, one, if you could elaborate on that, and two, I was wondering if that's what the mantra is. When you say the mantra, you're concentrating on the mantra, and consequently your other thoughts get reduced. Yes. And because the thoughts are getting reduced, your true self, your natural state is becoming stronger and more present.
Right. You can say so. After all, concentration means that we focus the attention on one thing without going always in all the other directions. The thing with concentration is one has to learn to concentrate without using directly the will, because especially in the earlier parts of the practice, if one tries with will to concentrate, the tendency is very strong to get all tense about it instead of relaxed. So concentrate and relax, concentrate and relax, not concentrate and get more and more tense about it. And then it's more like a gentle focusing than what one thinks usually as concentration. I mean, it's the same. Simply the word concentration always invokes a bit the idea of forcing something. And then you can also little moments, but then you have to relax, because if one uses the will and get all tense and uses the will and get more tense and uses the will and get more tense, eventually one is ready to break down the walls and kick people around. And that's certainly not the purpose of it. It's good that we learn along with concentration also to be aware, relax, and then you can concentrate, and then gradually that capacity is increasing to relax, that eventually it's also possible to really use the willpower without getting tense. And then the concentration may get very powerful, but it's more important to be conscious. And then in that consciousness, focus gently. And when the attention wavers, when we become aware that the attention is again going all over the place, just bring it back to that object of concentration, whatever it is. If it's the mantra, just bring it back to the mantra. And then when the mantra goes on and becomes mechanical, then bring the attention back again and do the mantra consciously.
And sometimes, yeah, okay. Sometimes being conscious of the mantra, you're really just conscious of the sound. Like, it's not necessarily a strong, what am I trying to say? I think I'll stay with that. I'll leave that question. I'll sit with what you said, Werner. I really like that about gentle focusing. That feels really good. And I do that a lot as well, but I also do get question what I'm doing, and then a bit of effort, it goes a bit into my head. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask you is, I remember hearing that to feel the love of the Divine Mother, you need to first, or just to feel, to feel the love of the Divine Mother, you need to first open your heart, or you need to first love the Divine Mother. Is that true, or can you just go within, or just can you move into that space of feeling loved and supported without having to consciously think of the divine or open one's heart to the divine?
Actually, what you're saying is exactly so. It's not a contradiction to what you said first, that first you have to love the Divine Mother. You can love that divinity, whether you have the concept of mother or father or abstract, it doesn't matter at all. But if you are going within and feel that love, that means you have opened the heart and you are loving. The love comes from you, and the more it flows from you, the more you have the experience as you feel the divine love. So it's not a contradiction, the two statements that you made, the first loving, or is it enough to just go within and then feel that love. That's all. If you feel that love flows.
Yeah, I really like that. And, you know, I think, like when I read books about Amma, and what you said, I totally relate to, because, you know, like it's been my experience from time to time, and especially tonight when I was contemplating that question, I was also just kind of just sighing and breathing and just feeling a relaxing and that sense of peace, and then feeling love, and then and so what you said was, and then I thought that love is not separate from that concept of the divine, of feeling, you know. So that totally makes sense. I guess when I read Amma books and it talks about imagining the deity, and but you don't need to do that from what you just said. I guess that's the concept of the deity is within, but the deity is no separate from us. So I don't need to be attached to the form of Amma or something like that. It's no different. Is that right?
That is totally right.
Going within.
You know, in India, it's very, for many people, this is the way, because it has been in their tradition from early childhood. There were always the deities, and most of the Hindus have at home a different picture of deities. So it has become very strong, and it is for many people easier to somehow imagine the form, maybe visualize the form, and then create that relationship. And it's also for Westerners sometimes easier if they have. All right. So it's very much in the Indian tradition that something comes very easy like that. But if you don't really feel like projecting the deity, but just go within and feel that divinity, then this is perfectly valid. Whatever is easier. The one who is projecting a deity and then in that way opens the heart and feels that love comes to the same essence. But if somehow that's not necessarily so much in your mental makeup to do that, but connecting the deity or the divinity just by going within, opening up and relaxing in that, then that's perfectly valid.
Is that also bhakti and devotion?
Of
going
course,
within
it's also,
and feeling.
Of course, it's bhakti and devotion. Bhakti has not to be, I am the devotee and there is the deity or the guru and I have devotion, but it means devotion to truth. The one who is doing self-inquiry, who am I, is also practicing devotion to truth, to reality, to the essence. Devotion doesn't mean that that you have to be the devotee sitting in front of a deity. Devotion means the sincerity with which we are turning the attention towards truth, towards the essence. How it is manifesting, it doesn't matter. And different people need different medicines. Yeah.
And I guess from a concept point of view, is that because I've also read in books that often that sense of bhakti and but there's no like the path of bhakti is often can be in Amma's books can often be easier than the path of Advaita or Vedanta. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I do feel that I am devotional by nature.
Right.
I'm curious that when one goes within and feels that love and relaxes into it, is that I guess we're getting into concepts here, but I'm just trying to understand it compared to what I've read. Is that more, you're saying it's devotional, but is that also, were you saying that it's more of the path of Advaita? Because I don't know much about Advaita or Vedanta. Yeah.
Vedanta. Right. You know, they are not really as different as people try to make them. Bhakti and jnana are the same. You can lean a bit more towards the manifestation of devotion and focusing more on love, or you can lean more towards the side of Advaita and focus more on consciousness. But the two actually are the two aspects of the same movement. So it doesn't matter how you call it, whether you call it devotion or you call it Advaita. When you open up, you go with him, you feel the divine. That is what matters. What names you are giving after that to that, it doesn't matter at all. And if you are mainly focusing on love, the consciousness automatically will deepen. And the energy also will join and it get harmonized. If you focus more on consciousness, if you are really sincere, if it's not simply an intellectual game, but you're going deeper, then the love automatically will also come. The two has to go together. You can focus a bit more on one aspect or the other, but if you are sincere, if it goes deeper, the other comes automatically.
And what do you mean by consciousness? Yeah.
By consciousness, I mean consciousness. By consciousness, I mean that which makes it possible that you wriggle your finger like this. That which makes it possible for you to ask these questions. That which you feel first when you wake up in the morning, then you're conscious. You're conscious right now. With that consciousness, you can perceive sense perceptions, you can think thoughts, you can have feelings. The thing with consciousness is everybody knows perfectly well what consciousness is, but you cannot define it. You can just point the attention to consciousness and there, yes, of course. Consciousness cannot be unknown because I need consciousness to say that I don't know consciousness.
Is that awareness, consciousness?
Yes, consciousness, awareness, they are synonyms. Sometimes some teachers, they differentiate consciousness and awareness, but it's only for the explanation, for conceptual. Like, for example, the Maurice Friedman, when he wrote the book of Nisargadatta's talk, I Am That, he differentiated between consciousness and awareness. But it's the same. It's simply what he means there is when he talked about consciousness, that he meant the personal consciousness. And when he talked about awareness, he meant the cosmic consciousness. But the personal consciousness is, of course, essentially absolutely the same like the cosmic consciousness. The consciousness and awareness are the same.
And I guess that's just bringing back to what you said before, because I was just trying to understand it. You're talking about you can focus on the manifestation, which is more the bhakti, I guess that's, or consciousness, which is the jnana path. But essentially, when you're in that space of love, consciousness is there and vice versa. There's
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
That feels good. Thank you so much, Werner.
You're most
Beautiful.
welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Is there anybody else who would like to come in? You're welcome.
Hi, Werner.
Hello, Andreas.
Is there like a consciousness without content?
Yes.
Like, because, yeah, what is like the, usually we have like consciousness of sense objects.
Yeah.
And this consciousness without content, is that the important thing?
Yes, that is the important thing. It's always there. It's in that consciousness that the content appears and disappears and changes all the time. But the essence, that consciousness remains the same.
Is there like, so this kind of consciousness is kind of permanent?
Yes, I mean, consciousness, the pure consciousness is the base of all expression. So even consciousness, even awareness is already the first expression of that mystery of existence. But we cannot in any way direct the attention to that mystery because it's absolutely unexplainable. But we can somehow have a notion of pure consciousness, of consciousness without content. And we can direct the attention to that. And that pure consciousness is always there as long as there is any expression, as long as there is any manifestation, that pure consciousness is the base and remains pure and unchanged. And within that consciousness, all kinds of things happen and change all the time. But the consciousness remains what it is, pure consciousness.
Is there like a difference between the pure consciousness and the consciousness of, that has like content of sounds and smells and stuff like sights?
No, essentially there is no difference. It feels like it's different, that there is the personal consciousness, which is very busy with so many things. And then there is that impersonal consciousness, but even that personal consciousness, while full of content, is still essentially that pure consciousness.
So what's the problem?
The problem is that we're creating that sense of being separate from it, that we are creating that content, and then we are creating, along with all that content, that notion of me, a personality, separate from the whole rest of existence. And then as soon as we do that, we are in trouble because we struggle for space, for food, for wealth, for attention, for love. We struggle for so many things against everybody else because we are identifying with a bundle of constructions within that consciousness. The problem is that false identification. If we don't do that, there is no problem. Then the content can come and go. It doesn't create a problem. It's created identification with the me as a personality, which invariably creates that sense of separation, that I am separate from the whole rest. Then the problem comes.
So how can I use, you said like consciousness manifest has its own creativity.
Yes.
Like how can I access that or make use of it to just get a little bit out of my usual habits that go for comfort and security?
Yeah. The more you bring the attention back to that essence, to that base, to that pure consciousness, the more creativity starts to flow through you into your daily life from moment to moment. Creativity does not necessarily mean, when I say that you have to become an artist and create poems and make songs and make statues or so. creativity expresses itself just with your normal daily life. If you are in peace, at ease, in harmony, then it's just bubbling out of you, whether you are physically creating something or not.
So it would be good to focus like that I'm in peace and harmony in my daily life?
Right. As good as you can. Bring the attention back. It's not that you have to create it. It's there. But we most of the time are not aware of it. But even when we are in troubles, when we are in tension, there is still that aspect which is at peace, in harmony. We simply are not quite aware of that. And so it's not that we have to create that space of peace. It's there. We just have to learn to be aware that it is there. That means when we are in tensions, that we learn to detach from those tensions and bring the attention back to that peaceful center.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Is there anybody else who would like to come in? You're welcome.
Hello, Werner.
Hello. Who is this?
Can you see me? This is Jamie.
Jamie? I hardly
Um,
can see you. Can you
yes.
make a bit more light?
Yes, let me work on that. Yes, I think now it's better, right?
Yeah, a little better. Right. I can see you vaguely now.
Yes, I'm sorry for that. It's a little bit dark here. Sending so much love and gratitude to you. Thank you so much for opening up these spaces. So I am reaching out because maybe in alignment to what Nava was saying about the power of Tiro and the energy that awakens when we are here. Since I arrived here, actually, it's been a big purge for me. I have been sick like maybe 4 times already. And right now I'm having, tendonitis, and I feel that there's like a lot of information coming to the surface as I keep on becoming more and more honest with myself and allowing myself to create spaces to sit with it and receive whatever it's coming. A lot of trauma is coming to the surface. A lot of hurtful memories are coming to the surface. And I've been recognizing like my nervous system kind of like showing me this information that it has been holding and also that is not that much in alignment with all the knowledge that we think that we have been acquiring. And even though that I have been putting into practice first your formula of breathing, connecting with the center and relaxing there, that's beautiful. It helps me a lot. But also when I practice yoga, and I've been doing a few like somatic techniques like holding me and creating a container, because this trauma, it's a lot in relationship with the security and feeling safe and feeling belonging. So I was wondering if you can maybe share a little bit more, any other suggestions that you have on how to navigate through these, because I understand that it is important to sit with it and allow it just to move through me and pass through me. But somehow, well, first, it's been challenging, like, to be so vulnerable, but also it keeps on coming. And yes, any other suggestion, I will be happy to hear from you.
Well, the first suggestion is still very valid. By all means, continue centering, breathing, relaxing. Now, right, what is happening actually when you do that sincerely, then it's like your attention is sinking deeper. in your consciousness and also in your subconscious. And if that is happening, then it's very usual that we are opening up boxes of stuff that has been hidden there. And so it comes up, and actually we may think, hey, it's not that the right direction I wanted to go. But then if stuff comes up and you can just drop it, then drop it. But often old stuff is energetically charged, and it's not possible to just drop it. And then it's better to accept, all right, I have to somehow confront it. And then let it come. Instead of fighting with it, instead of struggling with it, let it come. Memories, emotions, whatever comes along with it, let it come to the surface. Let the stories come from the beginning to the end, from the end to the beginning. But try to stay in the present. Try not to get lost in the past, in the story, but it may happen for moments that you get lost in the story, but then come back and see what it is doing to your experience right now. See how it is manifesting physically, energetically, and then relax. See what the emotions, the thoughts, the tensions that come to the surface are doing really to your experience right now. Physically, energetically, emotionally, but start on the easiest level. See how it is affecting your body and relax physically. And then it gives the possibility that energetically also it's harmonizing, and emotionally and intellectually you are less affected by it. And like that, if something comes up, for some time you may have to do that, and then it feels like it disappears and there is peace. And you may think, okay, it's gone, wonderful. But then the same silly stuff may come back the next day. If it's gone, fine. But sometimes stuff is strong and may come repeatedly, even if you treat it like this. But each time you do like this, it loses its power, it loses its charge. And at the end, it's just a story that doesn't affect you anymore.
Okay, I'll do that and I'll let you know how it goes.
Very good, very good. Wish you well.
Thank you so much. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Hari Om. Would anybody else like to come in and say something?
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Nelly.
I have one more question in regards
Yes.
to what you said about consciousness.
Yeah.
Before I thought that to be conscious means to be conscious and to do right things are something very close. So if I'm conscious, I don't do something harm, something bad like this.
Yeah.
But maybe last satsang, you, if I understand right, you said about light and dark forces, and about that, as I understood, that conscious can be positive and negative. And when I thought about, for example, a murder that that kills someone, he can prepare everything very properly. So he needs to be conscious in some kind of conscious. But before I thought that to be conscious, if the person is conscious, he can't do any harm or like this. But now I see that maybe conscious can be really different, has this polarity, if I understand right now, can you clear up this a little?
Right. Like somebody who is focusing on something can be very intensely focused on that subject. And you said that extreme case, a killer prepares a crime, may be very sharp in the intellect and very focused on the whole story and become very effective about it. But that being is very unconscious about himself, herself. So consciousness about yourself, about your being, the more you are conscious about your essence, the more you do the right thing, the less it is possible to cause harm. So somebody can focus very much on something and be quite powerful in it, but is very unconscious about their essence, very unalert. Because if they were alert, if they would open up, everything natural in them would immediately say, no, 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 not that direction. It's unnatural. The more you are in touch with your true nature and conscious of that, alert and open, then the more natural, the natural experience, and then consequently the natural actions are peaceful, harmonious. Sometimes we may, in the situation, show some strength and anger and bang on the table and say, no, no, but it doesn't, if you are alert, it doesn't pull you out. But to unnecessarily go out and cause harm, it's causing harm first to the one who is doing. He's causing harm to himself if he does commit crimes like this. So that person is not self-aware, is not conscious, maybe very skilled in focusing consciousness on a certain thing, on a certain scene, on a certain subject, but be very unconscious about the essence. Not at all aware of that sense of presence, but just in the mind and the emotions and the craziness of it.
Okay, thank you, Werner. Maybe next time I will ask more about it. Now I should to crystallize my question about this consciousness. Yes, thank you very much.
Let us drop it for today, yeah?
Yes, thank you very much. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om. I think, my friends, we have covered enough ground for today to let that sink in. So let's finish the official satsang with this for today. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you.